Communication always comes before touch because intimacy isn't something that begins with the body, it begins with the mind. When a woman feels emotionally safe, genuinely heard, and understood, her body responds with trust rather than tension. As a physician, I've seen countless relationships quietly transformed simply because partners learn to talk openly about their needs, their comfort, and their boundaries. Too often, people assume that intimacy should unfold naturally, as if partners are supposed to magically know what the other person wants. But in reality, the strongest and most connected relationships are built on intentional communication, not guesswork. When you begin with conversation, you're sending a powerful message. I care about your comfort. I value your preferences. I want to understand you. That message alone activates emotional safety. Women's nervous systems are deeply influenced by their emotional environment. Stress, uncertainty, and pressure can shut down desire, while clarity, respect, and reassurance open the door to trust. A simple conversation can change the entire dynamic of a moment. Asking, listening, and responding allows intimacy to feel collaborative rather than unilateral. Many people avoid these conversations because they worry it will feel awkward or unromantic. But awkwardness fades quickly, misunderstanding lasts much longer. A brief, honest conversation eliminates the guesswork that leads to discomfort or disappointment. It prevents partners from making assumptions that may be untrue, and it allows both individuals to feel more confident stepping into moments of closeness. There is nothing more reassuring than knowing what your partner wants, what they enjoy, and what makes them feel respected. The key is not to make communication a checklist, but a natural part of your connection. It can be as simple as saying, "I want you to feel comfortable. Is there anything that makes you feel especially relaxed or cared for?" Or "Tell me what helps you feel safe and supported." These aren't mechanical questions, they're expressions of genuine interest. And when interest is genuine, it doesn't feel scripted, it feels deeply thoughtful. Communication also means listening without defensiveness. When someone shares a preference, a limit, or a need, it is not a criticism. It is an invitation to connect better, a response like "thank you for telling me," or "I'm glad you shared that," turns vulnerability into closeness. It tells your partner that honesty is welcome and appreciated, that openness builds a foundation where intimacy can grow naturally and comfortably. Another important aspect is understanding that communication doesn't end once touch begins. It's an ongoing exchange. Checking in during intimate moments isn't a sign of uncertainty, it's a sign of respect. A gentle, "Does this feel okay?" or "Do you like this pace?" reinforces that your partner's comfort matters to you every step of the way. These small check-ins keep both people emotionally aligned, allowing the experience to unfold with mutual confidence and calm. When partners communicate well, the body relaxes, the breath slows, and the mind becomes fully present. This is where deeper connection begins. Without communication, even well-intentioned touch can feel intrusive or mismatched. With communication, even the simplest gestures can feel deeply meaningful. Communication transforms touch from something done to someone into something shared with someone. Ultimately, beginning with communication is about honoring the person you're with. It's an act of care, of patience, and of emotional intelligence. It is the gateway to intimacy that feels secure, uplifting, and respectful. When you prioritize conversation before physical closeness, you create a space where both partners feel valued. And in that space, genuine connection, both emotional and physical, can flourish in a way that feels natural, compassionate, and beautifully human. Consent is often discussed as a rule, a requirement, or a box to check, but in truth, it is something far more meaningful. Consent is an expression of respect. It is the way you communicate to another person that their body, their comfort, and their emotional experience matter deeply to you. When you prioritize consent, you aren't just preventing harm. You are building trust at the deepest level. As a physician, I've seen how profoundly a woman's sense of control impacts her emotional and physical well-being. When she knows she has a voice, a choice, and the freedom to say yes or no without pressure, her entire nervous system relaxes. And when the nervous system relaxes, connection becomes possible. Consent is not a one-time question. It's a continuous conversation expressed through words, body language, and emotional awareness. It begins with simple clarity. Is this okay? Or do you want to continue? These questions are not interruptions. They're reinforcements that her comfort matters. And when a woman feels that her comfort is valued, she experiences a form of emotional safety that is essential for intimacy. Safety is not the opposite of excitement. Safety is the foundation of it. Without it, the body holds tension. With it, the body releases. Too often, people misunderstand consent as something that ruins spontaneity. In reality, consent encourages it. When a woman feels free to speak up, to guide, or to express what she wants, she doesn't hold back. She participates with confidence rather than caution. She trusts the moment instead of scanning for danger or discomfort. That trust allows spontaneity to flourish naturally, without fear of crossing a boundary or misreading a signal. The most connected experiences come from feeling safe enough to be present, not from trying to predict or push. Consent also strengthens emotional intimacy. When you ask for consent, you're saying, your comfort matters as much as mine, your experience matters as much as mine. That equality is powerful. It removes any imbalance. It transforms intimacy into a shared decision. This shared decision making brings partners closer because each person feels seen, respected, and valued. The emotional bond deepens. There's another layer. Consent must be enthusiastic and free of pressure. A reluctant yes is not a yes. A quiet yes offered out of obligation or fear of disappointing someone is not consent. Real consent sounds like comfort, shows up as relaxation in the body, and feels like genuine agreement. Anything less demands patience, care, and understanding, not persuasion. When someone hesitates, the compassionate response is to slow down, ask what they need, and prioritize their peace over the moment's momentum. Consent also includes the ability to change one's mind. Saying yes at the beginning does not mean a woman must remain comfortable throughout the entire experience. Things can shift. Emotions change, preferences evolve, and honoring those shifts is where real respect is demonstrated. A partner who says, if you want to stop, just tell me, and means it, creates a space where vulnerability is safe. Most importantly, consent establishes a relational environment where women can show up authentically. When she trusts that her boundaries are respected, she feels free to express her desires, preferences, and needs without fear of judgment. This openness enriches the entire connection, giving both partners a stronger understanding of each other. Nothing contributes more to long, lasting intimacy than the freedom to be honest. Ultimately, consent is not a barrier to closeness, it is the path to it. It conveys honor, it fosters trust, it reassures her that she is not only cared for, but respected as a whole person with autonomy and agency. When you treat consent as a continuous, compassionate dialogue, you create a relationship dynamic built on integrity and emotional safety. And in that space, true intimacy, deep, mutual, and fulfilling, can thrive. Emotional connection is not an accessory to intimacy, it is the heartbeat of it. When a woman feels emotionally connected, understood, and valued, her body naturally follows with a sense of ease and openness. As a physician, I've seen this dynamic play out in countless moments, where emotional safety directly influences physical comfort. Women's emotional and physical responses are intertwined in a way that is both profound and beautifully human. The more cared for she feels, the more her nervous system softens, the more her mind relaxes, the more her body can respond without fear or tension. Physical closeness without emotional grounding may look intimate from the outside, but it rarely feels intimate from within. Emotional connection begins with presence. Presence means you're not distracted, not rushing, not treating her as an item on a checklist or a task to complete. It means you're tuned in, aware of her, attentive to her feelings, open to her experience. When a woman senses that you are fully present with her, she feels seen. That seeing is a powerful form of respect. It tells her that she is not simply being touched, she is being cared for. That difference changes everything. The body responds to care with relaxation. It responds to pressure with resistance. Emotional connection also requires genuine curiosity. Curiosity is the willingness to learn her, not just touch her, to understand what makes her feel loved, what makes her feel comfortable, what helps her feel safe. When you approach intimacy with curiosity instead of assumption, you create a space where she can express herself without fear of being misunderstood or dismissed. This kind of emotional openness allows her to communicate what she enjoys and what she needs, and it deepens trust between both partners. Trust is essential. Without trust, intimacy feels fragile. With trust, it feels expansive. Another essential element of emotional connection is empathy. Empathy is not about agreeing with everything she feels. It's about acknowledging it. It's the ability to say, "I hear you," or "I understand why that matters to you." When a woman feels understood, she relaxes emotionally, and that emotional ease translates into physical openness. Studies in the realm of behavioral health consistently show that empathy lowers anxiety and increases feelings of safety. Safety is the soil in which intimacy grows. When she feels emotionally safe, her body does not brace, it softens. Emotional connection also thrives on honesty. Honesty creates clarity, and clarity reduces anxiety. When you communicate clearly what you feel, what you want, what you don't know, you take the guesswork out of the moment. Women often carry emotional load, concern about how they're perceived, whether they're pleasing their partner, whether they're doing something right. Honesty removes that burden. It shifts the dynamic from performance to partnership. Instead of worrying, she can be present. Instead of second guessing, she can experience. Another layer of emotional connection is reassurance. Reassurance doesn't mean overpraising or forcing constant positivity. It simply means acknowledging your partner in ways that let her know she matters. A gentle "I'm here," or "you're safe with me," or "you don't have to rush," sends a message to her nervous system that she can let go. And when a woman lets go emotionally, her body becomes more responsive, more relaxed, and more attuned. Emotional connection is also built through shared experience. Laughter, conversations, vulnerability, moments of support. These are not separate from intimacy. They are the architecture of it. A woman who feels deeply connected emotionally will experience physical closeness as an extension of that bond, not as a standalone event. Without emotional grounding, touch can feel hollow. With emotional connection, even the smallest gesture can feel powerful. Ultimately, emotional connection is not a technique, it is a commitment. It is the willingness to show up with intention, to care with depth, and to listen with sincerity. When you nurture emotional closeness, you create an environment where intimacy becomes natural, safe, and deeply fulfilling. Emotional connection isn't just part of intimacy, it is the key that unlocks it. Slowing down is one of the most underestimated yet powerful elements of meaningful intimacy. In a world that moves quickly, where everything is driven by urgency, efficiency, and results, slowing down becomes an act of care. For women especially, the nervous system responds to pace in a profound way. When things move too fast, the body doesn't have time to interpret what's happening, to feel safe, or to settle into comfort. But when you slow down, you allow her mind and body to align. You give her space to feel rather than react, to breathe rather than brace, to experience rather than endure. That shift transforms the entire experience from something rushed to something deeply connective. Moving slowly is not about hesitation, it's about intention. It's choosing to be present rather than hurried. It's giving your partner the unspoken message: there is no rush. Your comfort matters more than the moment. That message alone relaxes her nervous system. Women often process touch with a greater level of complexity because their sensory pathways are more responsive to subtlety. Quick, abrupt movements can feel overwhelming or misaligned. Gentle, gradual ones allow her to understand what's happening, anticipate what comes next, and feel in control of the pace. Slowing down also allows room for emotional awareness. When you're not rushing, you notice more. You notice her breathing. You notice how her body shifts. You notice the small cues that tell you when she feels comfortable or when she needs more time. These moments of awareness build trust because they show her that you are attuned and attentive. When she feels noticed in this way, she relaxes. She doesn't feel the need to guide urgently or correct abruptly because she sees that you are already paying attention. Another aspect of slowing down is patience. Patience communicates respect. It shows that you are not trying to push her body ahead of her comfort level. Too often, people assume that intimacy is about creating intensity quickly, but true closeness grows from gradual connection. Women often need time to transition from their daily mental state into emotional and physical readiness. Their nervous system thrives on gradual shifts. When you slow the pace, you allow her to make that transition fully, without pressure or expectation. That transition can be the difference between feeling tense and feeling deeply connected. There is also a psychological benefit to moving slowly. It keeps both partners grounded. It prevents anxiety from creeping into the moment. When things move too quickly, the brain can shift into survival mode, scanning for, is this okay? Or is this too much? Or do I need to adjust? Slowing down quiets those questions. It tells her subconscious, you are safe, you are valued, you can take your time. A relaxed mind creates a relaxed body, and that combination creates an environment where authentic intimacy can grow. Pacing is also a form of emotional communication. It says, I'm here with you, not rushing past you. When you slow down, you foster connection instead of performance. You give her room to feel confident expressing what she likes or doesn't like. You honor her responses instead of trying to anticipate the next step on your own. And when she feels empowered to communicate, she becomes more present, more open, and more trusting. Finally, slowing down allows you to experience intimacy together rather than separately. It creates a shared rhythm, a shared emotional tempo. It builds anticipation, deepens connection, and turns small moments into meaningful ones. True intimacy isn't built in speed, it's built in attention, patience, and presence. And when you slow down, you give her the space to truly experience every moment in a way that feels safe, respectful, and deeply connected. Listening to her reactions rather than relying on assumptions is one of the most respectful and meaningful ways to build genuine intimacy. Every woman's body is unique, and every woman's emotional landscape is distinct. What feels comforting to one person may feel overwhelming to another. What is enjoyable for one may be uncomfortable for someone else. There is no universal formula, and that's why paying attention to her specific reactions is essential. When you follow her cues instead of your expectations, you create an experience that is collaborative, attuned, and truly connected. Women communicate in many ways through words, of course, but also through breath, posture, shifts in energy, changes in facial expression, and small movements of the body. These signals speak volumes. They reveal comfort, hesitation, curiosity, or enjoyment. But to understand them, you need to be present, not distracted, not trying to perform, and not focused on what you think should happen next. Attuned presence allows you to notice the subtle responses that tell you exactly what direction to take. One of the most important realizations is that intimacy is not a performance, it's an interaction. It's a dialogue, even when words are few. When you pay attention to her reactions, you invite her into the moment as an equal partner. Instead of treating intimacy as something you do to her, it becomes something you experience with her. That shift changes everything. It creates connection instead of detachment, emotional closeness instead of distance, and comfort instead of uncertainty. Following her reactions also requires a measure of humility. Humility means accepting that you don't know everything about her body or her preferences, and you don't need to. Intimacy is not a test of capability, it is a practice of care. Women feel when a partner is open, curious, and willing to adjust. They also feel when someone is rigidly following their own script. Humility invites learning, it encourages communication. It signals respect. When you show openness rather than assuming expertise, you create a safer, more empowering environment for her to express herself. Body language becomes particularly important when she is unsure or hesitant. A subtle tensing of muscles, a moment of stillness, or a shift in breath can indicate discomfort. These signals are not criticisms, they are invitations to slow down, check in, or change direction. When you respond to those cues with patience and sensitivity, you reinforce trust. You're telling her, without needing to say the words, "I care about your comfort and I'm paying attention." That message allows her to relax more deeply because she knows you will adjust when needed. Conversely, signs of comfort and enjoyment, relaxed breaths, leaning in, softening muscles, or natural engagement, tell you when she feels aligned with the moment. These responses show that she is present and comfortable. When you follow these cues, you deepen connection without rushing or guessing. You're moving in sync, guided by her natural responses rather than assumptions or pressure. Listening to her reactions also means encouraging her to speak up when she wants or needs to. Some women hesitate to voice their preferences because they don't want to hurt feelings or disrupt the moment. But when you show consistent responsiveness to her body language, she gains confidence that her voice matters just as much as yours. Over time, this builds an environment where she feels safe sharing openly what she likes, what she doesn't, what makes her feel cherished. That openness becomes one of the greatest strengths in any intimate relationship. Ultimately, following her reactions is about treating her with deep respect. It is about recognizing her as a whole person, not a set of predictable responses. It is acknowledging that intimacy is a living, evolving exchange. When you stay tuned to her cues, spoken and unspoken, you build trust, safety, and true connection. And in that connection, intimacy becomes more meaningful, more comfortable, and more fulfilling for both of you. Prioritizing her comfort and well-being is the foundation of meaningful intimacy, because intimacy cannot thrive where someone feels pressured, rushed, or unheard. A woman's ability to relax, enjoy, and connect is directly shaped by how safe she feels physically, emotionally, and mentally. When you place her comfort at the center of the experience, you communicate that she matters not just in the moment, but as a whole person. That message has a profound impact. It reassures her that your intention is not performance, not urgency, not expectation. It is care. And care is what allows intimacy to deepen naturally. Comfort begins with awareness. You can't prioritize someone's well-being without paying close attention to their emotional state, body language, and unspoken cues. When you notice how she responds, whether she relaxes, tenses, hesitates, or leans in, you learn what she needs in real time. This isn't about reading her mind, it's about being present enough to respond to her signals. That presence alone is comforting. It lets her know she isn't navigating the moment alone. You're there with her, not ahead of her or pushing past her boundaries. Respect for her comfort also means honoring her pace. Everyone arrives at intimacy differently. A woman might need emotional warmth, a moment of grounding, or simply time to shift out of daily stress before she can connect fully. When you approach intimacy with patience, you remove the pressure to hurry up or get to the next step. You're giving her permission to settle into herself, to breathe, and to trust the experience. That trust is essential. When a woman feels rushed, her nervous system responds with tension. When she feels unhurried and supported, her nervous system responds with openness. Another part of prioritizing comfort is creating a judgment-free environment. She should never feel that her preferences are inconvenient, that her boundaries are disappointing, or that her needs are too much. When she expresses discomfort, pauses, or asks for something different, the response she receives shapes how safe she feels. A partner who says, "Thank you for telling me, what do you need?" builds trust. A partner who gets frustrated, dismissive, or insecure creates distance. Women open up when they feel emotionally protected. They withdraw when they feel criticized or pressured. Prioritizing her well-being also means being mindful of emotional context. How she feels about herself, her day, her stress level, her confidence, or her body affects how she experiences intimacy. A supportive partner recognizes this and adapts with compassion. Encouragement, gentleness, and reassurance go a long way. When she feels valued beyond the physical moment becomes richer for both partners. Comfort is not only physical and emotional, it's also psychological. She should feel completely free to say yes, no, or slow down without fearing your reaction. She should feel like her needs matter just as much as yours, and that her voice is not only welcomed but appreciated. When you give her that emotional freedom, she is able to participate authentically instead of feeling obligated. Authentic connection is infinitely more meaningful than forced participation. At its core, prioritizing her comfort is about being grounded in respect. It is the decision to prioritize her humanity over any momentary desire. It is understanding that intimacy is not about achieving something, it is about sharing something. When a woman feels safe, seen, and supported, she responds not out of pressure, but out of genuine connection. The most powerful intimacy doesn't come from technique, it comes from care. It comes from the sense that she is with someone who values her experience, listens to her needs, and treats her well-being as essential. When you prioritize her comfort, you're not just improving intimacy, you're building trust, you're building connection. You're building a relationship where both partners feel respected, understood, and deeply valued.